And it's Friday. Welcome to another Friday time lapse here on the Duct Tape Stuff channel. The new Star Wars tape, I was just able to get some the other day, so I decided to film a quick time lapse here. Well, I guess not a quick time lapse, but a time lapse with the new Star Wars tape. And I tried to get it to line up. I really did, and I was probably going to be able to do it without making it, completely weird like it is now, but I would have had to have wasted probably about 3 or 4 feet of tape, and I didn't really want to waste that much because I want to use it for a few other projects coming up. So I did just kind of overlapped it a little bit. It does match up, quote unquote, per se, but not exactly because it doesn't, not perfectly. It's kind of just where the images are, except they're shifted down a little bit. So I apologize for the camera freaking out a little bit there. I actually hit the camera when I was trying to take the tape off the roll. That happens every now and then. If it's coming off the roll and it doesn't really come off, I try to really yank the tape off, and it just kind of if my hand flies off the roll and it kind of runs into the camera, which has happened a few times in past videos. But I almost knocked the tripod over on that time, so a little bit of a problem, but I managed to fix it, and you don't really quite notice it at this speed. So, working on a Star Wars time-lapse, of course, using the Star Wars tape, and I'm going to work on the Star Wars logo to stick on top of the image here. I have it actually sitting on my desk now, the finished product, and I think it looks pretty cool, so it definitely was a good color contrast. The typical, colors for the Star Wars logo are yellow and black, but I was curious to see if it was going to work out well on the background, which is, of course, the Star Wars tape. So I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work out, but it did turn out to look pretty nice. So, of course, there's a yellow borderline around the entire thing, and then the black highlight on the inside. And I was originally going to just cut out the yellow trim around all the letters, but then I decided that I think it would look too busy with that background of the Star Wars tape, as you can see. So decided to actually make the entire logo with the black tape to kind of give it a little bit of a background, and it won't clash as much with the background Star Wars tape. So working on cutting out all that now, using, of course, the hobby knife, the cutting mat, and of course the HD clear packaging tape, which you can see up there. I am definitely running out. I've had that roll for about 2 years now. I think it's definitely pretty much time to start looking for another roll. That one will probably last me a little while, but it's kind of running out. So it's actually kind of difficult to find the actual rolls of HD clear without the actual dispenser, like the tape dispenser with it. They don't typically sell, the stores don't typically sell just the tape roll itself. But once I find one, they usually come in about, like 60 yards of packaging tape, which is a ton of it, which lasts you a really long time. So I have to look for one pretty soon. So sticking these on right now, I'm not actually going to figure out exactly where they need to be stuck. I'm just going to be, rearranging this a little bit, and then I'll have to go back later and kind of rearrange them. All the letters are the same height. They're not, of course, all the same width because some of the letters are combined, but they do line up all on the same horizontal line. If you can imagine a horizontal line on the bottom of all the letters and on the top of all the letters as well. So cutting out the W and the A for the wars. And I'll be sticking all these on pretty soon. Always very cool that they came out with Star Wars tape. Star Wars is one of my favorite things. I'm definitely kind of a amateur Star Wars nerd. I really have 3 different things I call the pillars of my fandom, which are Star Wars, Marvel, and Lord of the Rings. And between those 3 different things, there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes out with them fairly recently. But Star Wars is actually one of the few things that doesn't exactly change a whole lot, except for the cartoon shows and everything. But now, of course, with the episodes 7, 8, and 9 coming out eventually, and the announcements for those, the Star Wars is definitely starting to pick up. But Marvel, of course, there's always something coming out, and now in the we're right in the middle of the Hobbit, of course, the Hobbit trilogy, which should be amazing. Did go to see the second Hobbit last night, part of a marathon with the first movie and the second movie. It was definitely better than the first one, in my opinion, but I'm not really sure. It's not the whole thing isn't as good as Lord of the Rings. So, but then again, competing with Lord of the Rings is a really hard thing to do. So the really interesting thing will be is how will Star Wars Episodes 7, 8, and 9 turn out, which is probably the major thing that everyone's talking about. That's a very hotly anticipated thing, and figuring out what everything's going to be like so many years later. So that's going to be kind of interesting too. So working on the last part of the R and the S here, I'll be lining these up and sticking everything down. in just a few seconds you'll get to see how everything looks. So sticking the W in the right spot, and there you have it. So I think it looks pretty cool with that nice Star Wars tape background on with the Star Wars logo. So hope you guys liked the video, and just very cool. So may the Force be with you always.